Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Big Jiu-Jitsu Show, member of the Pod Bros Podcast Network. Don't forget to go to podbros.com and find yourself another podcast you want to listen to. And don't forget to check out our sponsors, Trap and Roll Soap Company. Use promo code BeefSquatch to get yourself some money off your next order. And check out our other sponsors, Rollz Gear, as well as Tape Armor. And you can find all of our old episodes at bjjshow.com. I'm Rob, and Randy and I talked a little bit about the upcoming Origin Camp that happens, tomorrow. And we also talked a little bit about some remarks that Keenan Cornelius made. But, I feel like it's a really good episode to kind of give you guys a heads up on some stuff going on that's going to be coming out this week. Mainly that from Sunday to next Sunday, I'm going to try to do an episode every day. So we did that last year. We're going to try it again this year, see how it goes. But I really hope you guys enjoy the episodes that we have that are going to be coming up. And I hope that you guys like this episode as well. So don't forget to like us, subscribe to us, and review us on iTunes and YouTube, and find us on Instagram and Facebook. And, well, hope you guys enjoy this episode. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Big Jiu-Jitsu Show. I'm Rob.
I'm Randy.
And we're not in the same state. So I'm up here. I'm actually in Maine right now. I was in Boston earlier, but now I'm in Maine because we're kind of trekking our way to and James Hoffman just mooned me. So yeah, we're trekking our way up to the Origin Camp. We're making a stop in Kittery, Maine, to hang out. I think I'm going to do an episode tonight as well, which will be entertaining.
Yeah, you guys are so far away. It's sad.
It is.
I feel lonely. I feel lonely without you.
I'll be back soon, precious. Don't worry. No, it to me, it's always interesting because, when we were kids, we would occasionally go up to New York to visit my family, and that was like an 8-hour drive from the Raleigh area. And now Maine is like even further than that. So I'm just in context of distance. It's very far, but since I took a plane, it wasn't that bad.
Yeah, well, I wish I could be there with you, buddy, but time off is a rare delicacy these days. So,
well, what we need to do is we need to plan to do the camp next year as well, or at least do something where we can get up here and we can do all the interviews together and just do jiu-jitsu and that's have a great time. Absolutely,
that sounds awesome to me.
So you're saying time off's not a commodity these days right now, huh?
Not at the moment. It's not something that is kind of a frustrating topic for me. So I'll get all pissed off if we start talking about it. So.
Well, how's the training going instead? I'm sure that's a good way to let it out.
Yeah, training's going well. I'm kind of in a little bit of a frustrating phase, though. It's kind of a weird one. We all go through those peaks and valleys in this jiu-jitsu journey we're in, but I have a clear idea of what I want to work on, but now that I'm putting that to practice, I'm just hitting all these roadblocks. And I think it's because I'm thinking too much while I'm rolling, so I'm always a move behind. It gets a little frustrating, but it's necessary. So
yeah, I always get smacked up, and it'll come out in the end.
So, oh yeah,
but yeah, like you said, it's part of the growth, and it'll be all right. But geez, I'm kind of wondering how this week's going to go since I haven't been seriously training like I want to. So I imagine I'm going to get smashed quite a few times this week.
Well, I think the the analogy is you'll probably just be like a really tough purple belt.
Oh yeah, that's right. Since that made the news recently, I guess the jiu-jitsu news is what it made. So I know a lot of people have talked about it. I know a lot of people have posted about it. So Keenan, what was it? The Matt Byrne podcast that he was on?
I believe so.
Yeah, and you might actually have the better or know the exact quote, but he was talking about how like Rickson would now be regarded as a really tough purple belt.
Right.
It was Rickson and Helio, right? They'd just be really tough purple belts as far as like modern day is concerned.
And so I've got the exact. I actually pulled up the exact quote because I wanted to be able to refer to it. I mean, it took part in, like you said, a podcast. So it'd be difficult to try to fuse that in and listen to it right now on the show. So I just pulled up the quote. And the only thing I don't like about this is that even in just pulling up the quote on an article is still pulling it out of context, which is going to be something I want to kind of talk about in a little bit. But basically, what his response was, and this is verbatim, said BJJ is kind of like that. If you say anything about Ilio or Rickson, like you say that if their jiu-jitsu wasn't good, people will be like, are you kidding me? Rickson is the greatest black belt of all time. I get that you have to show respect to pioneers who came before you, but their jiu-jitsu was definitely not as good as it is today. Their level was probably a tough purple belt level. That was an exact quote from the podcast.
So in context, though, because even I didn't have the exact quote because I kind of skimmed over it, but I knew that he had mentioned that Rickson and Helio were, whatever, tough, or he said Rickson was like a tough purple belt. And then I generally try not to buy into the hype of some of these quote-unquote journalism websites for BJJ. So right. I'm kind of curious. So, did you listen to the whole episode? Because it's kind of I know we wanted to talk about it a bit too, but, what was the context and what he was talking about?
I didn't listen to the entire thing. I read up more about it than I heard, just because obviously it gained a lot of steam when people started talking about it, and everybody was, just like he says in that quote, people started flipping out because he mentioned Ilio and Rickson in not a favorable light, and so by default, he's all of a sudden in the crosshairs. So I didn't hear the exact context, but I believe that based on what I'm reading here, it was basically talking about, because in parentheses here it says BJJ is kind of like that. In parentheses it says Turkmenistan, an autocratic country ruled by an egomaniac dictator. And so I get the feeling that it was kind of this discussion similar to what we had with Prelude Mickelson on the show, where he talked about how people are, that instructors and professors are sometimes put on a pedestal, and they're looked upon almost as gods. And I think that's kind of what the discussion was in reference to. And so when you take that out of context, it sounds like he's bashing two pioneers that kind of paved the way for the art and the sport as it is today.
Yeah.
And I don't think that was his intention. I think he maybe, let's face it, maybe the wording wasn't the greatest, whether it was in context or out of context. He probably could have said it a little bit differently. But I highly doubt that his intent was to disrespect Rickson or Ilio Gracie.
No, that is kind of the shitty thing about being on a podcast or being interviewed or stuff like that. You can get words you say mixed up, or people can just jump in on just one clip, right? And the what he was saying, I kind of get, but I also on the other end of the spectrum, some people do need to chill out. If Keenan Cornelius came up to me and he was like, "Hey man, saw you roll, you suck." Right? Because somebody explained to me this to me about Taekwondo as well, about certain levels and stuff. If you had a world champ, Keenan Cornelius is one of the best Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu competitors out there completely. And if he came up to me and said, "Hey man, your Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu sucks," I probably would listen, because I'm like, yeah, this guy, he proves he really, really knows his Jiu-Jitsu, and if he says mine sucks, then more than likely it sucks. But
right, and I'd be curious to know too, more about it, and you'd have to. I wish that there was a possibility of getting him on the show. That's going to be ridiculous. But if you had Keenan right here talking in this conversation, I'm sure he would delve into more detail. And my thing would be, you got to put it into context, because if you're talking about the application of jiu-jitsu in a mixed martial arts setting, then that whole entire conversation changes.
It absolutely does.
Especially in regards to Rickson. And if you apply it in the context of strictly sport jiu-jitsu, then I think his statement is actually very accurate, because strictly sport jiu-jitsu has evolved immensely over the years. I mean, there's positions that didn't even exist back when Ilio and Rickson were more active and in their prime. So he's not being facetious or inaccurate in his statement when he makes that comment, but that's only in a very narrow context.
Yeah, in sport Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Which is what gets the majority of attention when we talk about doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Right. And because it's a tail-old argument, or I can't even talk right, time-old argument of just friggin' difference between sport jiu-jitsu and self-defense jiu-jitsu and what applies to it. The sport jiu-jitsu side of the house, and I will absolutely stand by this forever, is meant to defeat other people your belt level. Self-defense jiu-jitsu is meant to not get your face smashed in and beat people who want to try to hurt you.
Right.
And in the context of if Rickson jumped in like a brown belt division, he might get tooled up by some of these brown belts because they are just phenomenal athletes. And I get where he's coming from, but also a lot of people are quick to kind of jump in and be crazy about it, because if I said, like your hero is not that good, then it sucks, man. Like there's no nice way to put it. And maybe I'm being a bit disrespectful, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but I do see where Keenan's coming from with this.
I do too, and I think there were some comments that have been made in the past in regards to Rickson Gracie's self-defense jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And every branch of the Gracie tree or Machado tree has their own take on jiu-jitsu for self-defense. And there's obviously some repetitive and consistent concepts, because what works is what works to some degree.
Yeah.
But there's also differences. And I can say this from my own experience, because I've trained with Carlson Gracie Jr. in his program that he developed for law enforcement, and got instructor certifications in his basic and advanced levels of that. And I just recently finished training with Rickson Gracie and getting my certification instructor in his Gracie survival tactics for law enforcement for the level 1. And so you look at them, and that's why I'm saying that there are similarities, but there are drastic differences. And I'll leave my personal opinion out as to, which ones I think are more or less effective, because it's individual techniques or concepts, not the entire program as a whole. And so Rickson has his own system of self-defense that he puts out. He's got DVDs, he's got certifications and classes and seminars and stuff. And there's been some comments regarding his material possibly being outdated in terms of self-defense.
Huh.
And now is that the same thing as what Keenan's saying? Is that as equally disrespectful to say that? I don't think it is. The art and the sport have evolved, and that should be looked upon as a very positive thing. Nobody's trying to take away the fact that Rickson Gracie and Carlos Gracie had a significant role in creating what we know now as jiu-jitsu and giving us this ability to do what we love, or that Rickson wasn't a pioneer and an absolute badass in his day and in his time.
Yeah.
It's no different than Rollz Gracie going into the UFC and dominating in the beginning and then coming back years later after the sport evolved and getting his ass kicked by Matt Hughes.
No, it's not different at all. And that's the thing too. So going back to what I was saying, Keenan is a subject matter expert in sport Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I absolutely agree with that. You are a subject matter expert in defensive tactics, self-defense, for law enforcement, for civilian personnel, whatever it may be, right?
Right.
I feel that if you bring stuff up like his self-defense is lacking because it hasn't evolved with the times, right?
Mm.
Kind of like sword defense in like certain martial arts. I feel like there might have been a little bit of evolution in self-defense between, 1400 Japan to now. Maybe a couple years. Maybe a couple of generations might have evolved.
Yes.
But saying it tactfully like you did is one thing. A lot of Roy Marsh, who I love his posts all the time on Facebook, he'll always bring up the blue belt that writes for he's not talking about a specific blue belt, but he will say, and it's articles like this written by blue belts that make journalism for BJJ suck. Where it is blue belts talking about how bad somebody sucks, like fuck Rickson, he's not that good level things. Whereas Rickson right now probably would walk in there and take their lunch money, no problem.
Yes.
But it's the same thing as like you go on some of these UFC posts where they talk about like what was it like Daniel Cormier getting knocked out, and people say, well, yeah, because he fucking sucks, man. He has no hands. There's no reason he should have been the champ. Then get out there and prove it. Show us how fucking good you are then.
everybody can get caught, and that's the name of the game. Whether you're talking UFC or jiu-jitsu with submissions, everybody can get caught, and I agree with you. How about Ronda Rousey and all the bullshit she caught? I mean, not defending her personality, but you've got to respect her dominance earlier on in her career in women's mixed martial arts.
Like, oh yeah, she was good at what she did, but she had fucking shitty attitude, and that's why I was excited that she lost.
Oh, I'm not saying I'm not happy about it. I'm just saying I think it's hilarious. I think it's hilarious now though when you go and her name is brought up in any forum.
Yeah.
And you have all these like this new wave fans that probably didn't even watch UFC back in its heyday, and they talk all this shit about Ronda Rousey and how she's trash and overrated. And I'm like, wait a minute, how can you even say that? She dominated everybody for the beginning. She made a mistake and tried to strike against a world-class kickboxer and got tagged, and that can happen to anybody at any given moment. But it's the same topic, right? It's the same point. You get these guys that are jumping on this on Keenan's ass about his comments about Rickson and Elio, and it's the same people that would put that stuff out there about Ronda Rousey.
Yeah, exactly. I was trying to find a good post about like UFC level shit and just be like, talk about like just their shitty attitudes with it and whatever. But yeah, it legitimately is kind of the same thing, and people act that way. And I just don't know, man. Like, and then didn't Keenan make a video kind of addressing what was going on as far as
he did. He and it's basically what we're talking about. It's basically the same concept. He was just referring to the evolution of the sport. It wasn't. He has an immense respect for those two, obviously, just like everybody that does Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu should.
Yeah.
I think that goes without question. And I love watching Rickson Gracie's classic fights. I mean, he was just amazing. He was awesome to watch. We won't get into the Chuck Norris status of the fact that he never lost ever in the gym or anything and all the nonsense that comes out. We won't even go there. But in terms of Rickson Gracie and his prime and all that he's done for jiu-jitsu, Elio, I don't even have to say anything about because we all know his status amongst Brazilian jiu-jitsu practitioners. I think Keenan just worded it very poorly. And I bet you if he could go back in time, he would change the way he said it. He wouldn't change the message, but I think he would change his wording. I'd be willing to bet.
I think so as well. Because like you said, he did intend for all this to be taken as as disrespect for the people who have come before him and created this art and help get established and stuff like that.
And I mean, I think even the wording, like I'm looking at the quote right now, it says, while you're looking that stuff up, it says, I get that you have to show respect to pioneers who came before you, but their jiu-jitsu definitely not as good as it is today. Their level is probably tough purple belt level. So I think the whole part where he says that their jiu-jitsu is definitely not as good as it is today is, again, I get the point, but it's poorly worded. It's not that their jiu-jitsu wasn't good. It was great. In their time, it was phenomenal. It was above and beyond everybody else's understanding of jiu-jitsu, or in Elio's case, of fighting and self-defense in general.
Right.
So I think that's just, but it's words. It's words. It's almost like my dad would always say if he would yell at me in a lecture and he would get so flustered and his wording would fall apart. And I'd be like, what are you talking about? And he was like, listen to what I mean, not what I say.
Yeah.
It's the same idea. Listen to what he means and not what he says. Yeah, we get it. He said some things that could be perceived as being disrespectful, but that's not how he meant it. He didn't mean it that way. So, yeah.
Yeah, and that's really it, man. Like I said, I did laugh a bit when you talked about the dad thing. I guess my brain went to getting yelled at as a kid because Lord knows I got yelled at a lot. But I think he's going to come away from it all right. Like, there's, once again, everybody's going to forget about it in a few weeks, but
yep.
It's always the people who have no idea that get out there and want to talk shit about what people have done before. And like we talked about the people who came before him and giving them that respect. Yeah, Rickson. That's the thing too. Rickson and Hoyce and Henzo. They weren't fighting MMA matches only. Like you pull up the old videos of them fighting Hapkido guys and bodybuilders. Although I mean that was Machado, but it's. Like that, those are the type of fights you would get, like where they're legitimately you can do whatever you want, and I'm gonna fight you and I'm gonna beat you the way I want to, and that's frightening. Like even at one point, the best line out of one of them was I'm trying to remember who it was fighting the Hapkido guy, but he was like, out of desperation, the Hapkido man reaches for my groin, And he's which to me also is like the big nullifying thing of like, well, I'll just gouge your eyeballs out if you start giving me a rear naked choke. Like the dude legitimately was trying to squeeze his balls, and he still didn't win. Still didn't win.
Right.
But yeah, so that Keenan will come away fine. But I'm really excited for this camp this week, and once again I gotta try to make you jealous a bit. But so the absolute goal, is to do a episode a day for the week. And
yeah, I think that'll be awesome. I remember when you went out there last time, I listened to several of the podcast episodes that you put out. Birdman was an awesome one.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna try getting back on again. That was probably one of my favorites.
Yeah, that was a great episode. It was just such a different perspective and such an intriguing character. So that was pretty cool. I'm already jealous. You don't have to really put much effort into that part of it.
Well, tonight is supposed to be kind of a crazy one because we got here. We were with Aaron Chittister. He's a jiu-jitsu guy out here as well, and he comes to the camps normally. We hung out a bit, and he said, "All right, tonight we're going to our buddy Alex's house, and he does jiu-jitsu and he likes to talk, so let's do an episode." I'm like, I have to ask. I'm already down for this. So it's going to be
absolutely. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be me, I guess this guy Alex, Aaron, and James Hoffman, and maybe special guest appearance by Ben Moore. And I don't want to spoil that because I really want Ben on the show, and he's got a really, really interesting story. You, in fact, might like that episode because he works with beer brewing companies on top of doing jiu-jitsu as a brown belt.
Nice. Yeah, I do like that. I'll have to check it out. Sure.
Absolutely. So, real short episode for the Prelude. Anything you got for the fans before we get out of here?
Nope. Just keep it up on the Facebook, on the group page. Feel free to create. I'm talking more to the guests at this point, the visitors. Create some topics. I've been creating a lot to try to get things going, but feel free to jump in there, post questions, pictures, funny memes, videos, technique-oriented things, whatever you want. That's what it's there for, is interact with each other in there. So get on there and post a little bit. But other than that, I'm looking forward to hearing some of the content that you put out while you're up there at the immersion.
Should be good. And we're definitely going to be getting into some more media-type stuff as well. Speaking of which, I feel confident I can put this out because we're working on it still. The 21st of September, if you're going to the Tap Cancer Out in Raleigh?
Yeah. Yes.
We will be there. We'll be doing video interviews and taking videos of highlight competition. So if you see a giant Mongolian-looking guy with like a microphone and a camcorder, maybe a minion, and then this guy who's not quite as big as this Mongolian dude, and they're both brown belts, right? And they're going around interviewing people, come say hi. And we'll definitely like to get some video of you and talk to you about your jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, absolutely. So that'll be an awesome time. So
it should be. All right. Well,
and a great cause too, by the way. I got to throw that out there. Let's have cancer out. I've lost some good friends to it, and I'm sure everybody, a lot of people that have listened have been touched by it. So it's a great cause. I love the whole idea. So
same here. It's gonna be good, man. I'm really excited about it. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, once again, this has been the Big Jiu-Jitsu Show. Remember the Pod Bros Podcast Network. Don't forget to go to podbros.com and find yourself another podcast you want to listen to. And check out our sponsors, Trap and Roll Soap Company. James. Hey, James, you want to just come do a pitch? Come here. Hurry up, we're recording.
No pressure.
Give a pitch, man. Tell people about your soap. No, just give a plug about them, where they can buy your soap.
Trapandrollsoap.com. You can check us out on Instagram, Trap and Roll Soap Company, and Facebook page. We're up here at Origin. We got some new patches, some new shirts, Scrub a Comment for Mommy. And we stand united in the fight against Matt Cooties.
Hell yeah. So yeah, go buy soap from them. It's awesome. And then check out our other sponsors, Tape Armor, as well as Rollz Gear, and find all of our old episodes at bjjshow.com. I'm Rob.
I'm Randy.
We'll catch you guys next time.